Hey, what's going on, y'all? Now, in today's video, I want to mention a topic that I believe has been the death of many a semen retention journey. And that is edging. I think a lot of people in this community, especially in the very beginning, they don't want to just stop touching the meat entirely. And so, in the spirit of retaining, they want to get themselves to that edge, to that point, and then hold themselves back, hold themselves off. And there's a big problem with this. All right, so let's just start with, and I'll say this because I think that some people, maybe they're good at this. Maybe they don't mind that they're frying their brain cells by looking at pornography all the time and, getting themselves to that point with their dopamine receptors. Maybe you don't mind that. And so I say this, edge at your own risk. I know the risk is great. I'm going to spell out some of these risks right now. So, primarily, there's a big risk that you just bust it, right? You're probably going to bust. It's almost inevitable. And I speak from experience because, especially in the beginning of this journey, I couldn't help myself. I was like, man, I'm really going to not touch my meat at all. Like this thing is not going to get used ever. Like, my whole MO was that, okay, well, I want to use it sometimes at least. I wanted to go out of, out of commission here. And so like a fool, just decided to get myself to that point and then stop. But the thing is, I couldn't stop. And not to say I couldn't stop right before the point. I was successful at that at least the first 10 times, right? But I kept coming back to it. My brain was just hooked. Maybe it's myself just being prone to addiction, but my brain was just hooked on that. And I kept coming back. I couldn't stop coming back. I think that goes for a lot of people. Once you get your dopamine receptors spilling that dopamine, your brain's going to want you to go right back to it. So, you have to understand that there's a huge risk that you won't be able to put it down. That by doing this, bro, I spent like hours. I would spend like 2-3 hours just getting myself there, stopping. Getting myself there, stopping. And just thinking about it, and let's say you're not even using porn. You're just using your mind's fantasies. Well, now you're not programming your brain to be addicted to sexual fantasies. You know what I'm saying? Which almost defeats the purpose of being on the retention. Not, the part of it is definitely you want to hold your seed in, but you're trying to heal your mind. You're trying to, rewire your mind and reset it to not care so much or put so much value onto sexual content. When you're doing that just by fantasizing, you're teaching your brain that that's the way that you seek sexuality. And worse yet, you're training your brain how to dream that stuff. So that when you go to sleep, you're increasing the chance of yourself having some kind of nighttime emission. So you understand, there are a lot of risks at play here. A lot of things that, it's just not worth doing. Because, again, at the end of those 3 hours, the whole time I'm telling myself, I'm not going to bust. I'm definitely going to stop myself. I'm not going to bust. You know what I'm saying? It's like pull out getting strong. It's like, bro, eventually, it's just, if you keep going, you keep going, you're going to get to a point where it's like, I almost called it like the delay. Like, you get to that point where you think you've stopped, but it keeps going, and then boom. You know what I'm saying? You hands off, but the process has already begun, bruh. The process is already done. You know what I'm saying? You busted. And it's a sad thing, when you lose your seed, especially when you convinced yourself the whole time that you weren't going to. So, all this is to advise you. Edge at your own risk. Understand that there is a great risk involved, and that if you push yourself, you're probably going to bust. And worse yet, if you decide to keep on going and going and going, even if it's not just in one session, but let's say you do it once in the morning, once at night, once the next day, it's like you're frying your dopamine receptors. You're going to find yourself enjoying things less because you need that major dopamine spill from, it's like what they're saying with TikTok, everyone's getting crazy dopamine from TikTok, Instagram, all this stuff. And then you find you're enjoying real life. You can't just read a book anymore. You can't just do simple activities that give you regular amounts of dopamine because you've trained your brain to seek out activities that give you insane amounts of dopamine. Sorry, it's cold out here, y'all. Got me slurring in my speech. So I'll just wrap it up, man. This is the real consequence to edging yourself. And I caution you to do it at your own risk. Because again, the risk is great. All right. Take care, y'all. Peace.